Hey everyone, welcome back. Do you have a washer that looks like this? Could be a Kenmore, could be a different brand, but it looks exactly like this. Well, in today's video I'm going to be showing you quite a few different things. So I'm going to be showing you first off how to change the wash plate. What you're going to want to do is pop off that little cap there. Then there's a 7/16 bolt. You're going to want to unscrew that. Yeah, well, you can see there's a little bit of filth there. Next, what I do is I go ahead and spray a little bit of WD-40 to try and loosen things up. On these washers, this wash plate is notorious for getting seized, which of course it is in this video. So you're going to see what happens when it's seized. What I'm trying to do here is take these two little pick tools with hooks and I'm trying to wiggle that wash plate back and forth, side to side. Basically trying to pull it up, because that wash plate's going to come straight up. At least it should. Now what I'm doing is I'm going ahead and banging on it just to try and break up some of the corrosion. Because essentially with these wash plates, they get seized because there's metal splines pressed into that plastic wash plate, as well as there's metal splines on the gear case. And what happens is they get corroded and rusted and they seize and it doesn't want to come up. So you can see here, normally if it wasn't seized you could do what I'm doing and pull straight up and it would come up, but in a lot of cases it's going to get seized. So what you're going to have to do is essentially break that wash plate into pieces and chisel it off, which you're going to see me doing. So what I found helps is getting these kind of furniture movers or appliance movers and getting them under the wash plate. I think these specific ones are called like rhino pads, but essentially what you would use these for is, you know, say you have a fridge or a washer that's been sitting on linoleum or sitting and it's essentially like pressed into the floor. It's been there for so long and it's stuck, you can't move the appliance. You put these underneath it and use air to basically pop it up off the ground. However, I found that you can use them in an alternative way. Here, you slide them underneath the wash plate. And believe me, they're not just going to go right under. You have to essentially pry up a side of that wash plate. What you're seeing me do here with some screwdrivers and pick tools, I'm prying it up just enough so that I can get that rhino pad underneath. And I've used some laundry detergent to lube it up so that it slides under there easier. And believe it or not, sometimes this actually will be able to pop the wash plate up if, you know, if it's not seized too bad, if it's not rusted too bad and corroded. If you're able to get one on each side, or even three, equally distributed on opposite ends of that wash plate, sometimes you can get it to free up and the wash plate will pop right up. However, as you're going to see in this video, it doesn't do that, and it just helps break the wash plate apart. But I did want to try to see if that would help, because in my opinion this takes the majority of the time for this. I mean, this whole wash plate situation is a big part of the headache with this whole thing. So anyway, what I'm doing in this video, essentially, this customer's washer, it was still spinning, but it was grinding horribly. And it turns out that the gear case had been leaking oil, you know, on the stator, on the rotor, and everything got all messed up. It got all worn down and not good. So what you're going to see me do in this video is I'm going to be changing essentially all of the drive system components. I'm going to be changing the gear case, I'm going to be changing the rotor. Oh yeah, you can see I'm using my little handheld Milwaukee saw there just to cut into this plastic to give me access to those metal splines. And now I'm chiseling off the pieces of plastic for that. And now you can see that metal spline insert that was pushed into the bottom of the wash plate. You can see I'm beating it on it with my little metal mallet, still trying to free it up. And now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to get underneath of it with a wrench, an adjustable wrench, and a chisel. And essentially I'm trying to lift it up. I'm trying to use leverage to my advantage, and I'm trying to pop it up. So now we got two of them. It's moving up little by little. It's moving up, and I'm trying to get it to the point where I can slip that second one, that little channel lock brand. Oh, there it is. It popped up. Man, let me tell you, I was so relieved when that happened, because I've had it where you have to cut that in half and chisel it. So now what I'm doing, you're going to need this Whirlpool tool here, basically to get this spanner nut off, which we're not going to be reusing. It's super corroded. You're going to go ahead and hit that. That basically holds the inner tub down to the gear case. I'm just spraying a little bit more WD-40 here. Everything's all rusted and corroded. You know, I don't know how well you can see. Yes, I didn't have it unplugged until then, but at this point I wasn't touching anything electrical. I was just trying to get that wash plate off. Now that the wash plate is off and I'm going to get down underneath of it to the gear case and all the drive system, I went ahead and unplugged it, safety first. I went ahead and laid down a towel because these people have several dogs and cats. Oh yeah, you can see how nasty that is. This gear case has been leaking oil for years. And I mean, in my opinion, these people have been abusing this machine, putting dog beds and rugs and all kinds of stuff in here. To get that bolt off, you're going to need a really big Torx. I don't even know what it is off the top of my head, but it's a really fat one. So what I do is just get one of those bit sets that has a ton of bits at pretty much every size you'll need. And this thing is so dirty, I'm putting disposable gloves over my work gloves, because there's just oil and dog hair and cat hair. Alright, so what I think you're going to need here, I think it was a 9/16 bit, but I'm not quite sure. You might just have to feel it out. I go ahead and I disconnect the electrical connections. After I take the stator off, I go ahead and disconnect that shifter there. Take out all these screws. I think there's about 3 in the shifter, 3 in the rotor, or the stator. I get those mixed up sometimes. Take those off. There's a grounding screw there. That one's just a 1/4 inch bit. Nut driver. And then these ones are 10mm that actually hold the gear case on. So this part can be a little bit tricky, especially if it's all corroded and seized up in there. So what you're going to see me do in a minute here, I'm trying to pry it from the bottom a little bit, and you want to be gentle. You don't want to pry too hard because you don't want to crack the tub. The tub is just plastic and it can crack. So I'm just kind of gently prying on it, but then I realize, yeah, this thing ain't coming out this way. So I move all my stuff out of the way, get up, tilt the washer back upright, and you saw I moved the towel under it, so it's directly under. Now I got my metal mallet again. I think it's a 2 or 3 pound mallet. Oh man, you could see all that corrosion. You see that? Man, nasty. Now what I'm doing, I'm getting my little pick tool there, and I'm going ahead and cleaning out these splines, trying to clean this thing up as much as I can. Go on each individual spline and clean it out. You can see I sped it up really fast. I think it's about 4 times speed here. I think on YouTube you can slow it down if you want. Spraying a little bit of WD there. And now what I'm going to do is actually get a little bit of sandpaper and sand some of this corrosion off of the inside of this inner tub here. It's not too bad, but I like to, you know, clean things up and fix right, as they say. So I just go ahead and spray some WD there, sand it a little bit, and now I'm wiping it down. I want this new gear case to slide in there as smooth as possible, because this is a little bit tricky here. What I'm doing is I'm getting a little bit of the laundry detergent. That's a little pro tip there if you want some help lubing this gasket up so it goes into that tub. I used a little bit of laundry detergent, put it on the gasket as well as on the plastic on the tub. And I go ahead and get that bolt ready so that way when I push it up there, it's ready. Because this thing, it's not too heavy, but I think it's maybe, I don't know, 20 pounds or so, which isn't crazy heavy, but when you're at an awkward angle and you're using one hand, it is. You're going to want to transfer this little white guard here from the old one to the new one. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, here's the fun part. Well, not as fun as the wash plate, but almost. You basically have to use one of your hands to push it up, straight up. And what I do is I start each of these bolts. Now you don't want to drive them all the way in. You just want to start them so that way it holds that gear case in and take some of that stress off of you. So I just go ahead and I start all 4 of these. I don't drive them in all the way, I just start them so that way the weight of the gear case is being held by the tub instead of my arm. And then after I get them all started, then I start to snug them up. And I do it just how you would on a tire, in a star pattern, you know, opposite ends, so that way the pressure is equally distributed. You know, you don't want to just run one all the way in and then, you know, one right next to it and next to it. No, you want to do little by little on opposite corners, and so that way it seats properly, it's got equal tension, and you don't have any issues. And when you're using an impact, you just want to tap it. You just want to lightly tap it, feather it. You don't want to drive it in and let it hammer multiple times, because it will crack the tub. Let me tell you, how do I know? From experience. I've cracked the tub before. When I was new, first starting, I've cracked a tub or two using that impact and just hammering it in. So learn from me. Just lightly feather it, you know, let it hammer once or twice, not over and over again. Anyway, next step, you're going to want to go ahead and put that grounding screw back in. You're essentially doing it in reverse order. So I'm going to go ahead and putting the shifter magnet on. It's got like this clip ring. It's almost like if you have a keychain, you know, like for your keys, except it's flat and it goes into this groove. And what you have to do is kind of expand it and spread it apart and do it one line at a time until it gets on there. And then you can see I'm checking it, making sure that the spring goes up and down. Yeah, that shifter actually came with a new bracket. However, I just reused the old one because I wasn't aware of that until that moment. So it's up to you if you want to do either one. Now I'm just making sure that they align properly. For me, it took a few minutes just to make sure that this thing is properly aligned. There's some pegs that help line it up, but you know, I'll be honest, I got a little bit confused. I seen the wires and I'm like, wait, what's going on here? So if that happens to you, don't feel bad. Learn from my mistakes again. Alright, there we go. I finally got it. So I'm just getting those bolts ready. I was trying to see if that line would clip into that second clip, but it seems like it's too big. Slow and steady. Want to make sure everything's going together as it should. Don't want to have to do all this and take it all apart again. Again, like I said, yes, I'm using the impact, but I'm not impacting it over and over. I'm just doing it until it clicks once. I'm just feathering it, very lightly feathering it. Because these will strip. Again, how do I know? Because I found out. Sometimes you got to find out the hard way, so that way you don't make that mistake again, and so you can share that with other people. And that's really the goal of this channel, is just to share with you guys what I go through, so that way you can learn, do things on your own. So yeah, plug those back in. This part can be a little bit tricky. You want to be careful, watch your fingers, because once you get it lined up right, sometimes it'll pop right on there. The magnets will pull it up, and sometimes you might pinch your fingers. Alright, we got the splines lined up. Got that new bolt in there. Here we go. We got it all tightened up. I just go ahead and spin it by hand. Make sure I don't hear any rubbing. You don't want to hear any rubbing, because if you do, and I mean like, you know, rubbing, grinding, because if you do, then you know something's not quite aligned right. You might want to take it apart, put it back together, just double check. And that's pretty much it. The last step that we have to do is we actually are going to put the wash plate on and the spanner nut, and then we're going to calibrate it. So we got a new spanner nut. I always recommend, if you can, get a new spanner nut. I pretty much order all new hardware. Well, not all new hardware, but yeah, the spanner nut, that bolt that goes in the wash plate, and the bolt that goes into the rotor. And if you're wondering, another pro tip, if you're wondering why that blue shop towel is wrapped on there, I put that on there just to try to reduce any bangs or scratches that I might accidentally do banging it around in there. Also, don't impact that bolt into the wash plate too tight. You just want to hit it 1 or 2 clicks. You don't want to really drive it hard. All right, we're going to calibrate it. To get into the diagnostic mode, what you're going to do is you're going to select 3 buttons, any of them, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. As you can see, an active fault code there is present. That one has to do with the motor, I believe. At least it had one for the motor the other day. It says you're going to want to hit that second button. Now you're in the manual mode, where you can go through each step, and each one of those numbers corresponds with an activation, like the hot water, the agitate, drain, so on and so forth. You're going to want to go to number 52 and hit play, and then that's going to start the calibration cycle. Alright everyone, hey, I hope this helped you, and if it did, like, comment, subscribe. Appreciate you for watching. Have a great day. Later.